Oh, yeah. Here's the question. What is the media not telling you about the shooter at Joel Osteen's church? Is there a wave of attacks that match this profile? And will we ever know the truth about the motivation of this event? And do churches need to be prepared for more attacks in the future? I say yes. We're going to talk about it. Let's go. Breaking news, Big Picture Live. All right, right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and just say that if you're watching this on Facebook, if you're watching this on Twitter, or X, I should say, make sure that you go over to YouTube at the conclusion of this program and like and subscribe on our YouTube or Rumble channel, especially YouTube, because everything's on YouTube. Very few things are on Facebook. If you don't follow us on Rumble, real quick, let's do that. Rumble.com/Larry Ragland. Go over there and follow us. That's our free speech platform that we know that we're going to be at. And, you know, when we're covering items like this, you can only imagine how I'm going to have to navigate this, because unfortunately the world we live in does not like me to cover what I'm about to cover. In fact, I'm sort of anticipating getting some kind of flags off of this. Hope not put in timeout. But let's get right into it. So most of you know that over the weekend there was a shooting at Joel Osteen's church. Probably the largest church. It was at one time the largest church in America. It's at least the top three right now. And there's a lot of people that have all kinds of emotional feelings about Joel Osteen, his style of preaching, the church, and so forth. That's not what this is about, and that should not be what you're even concerned about. Unfortunately, I've seen some really stupid people out there, and I know I probably shouldn't use that word stupid, but it's pretty, stupid is as stupid does. But, when you come out and your only comment is negative against Joel Osteen and his preaching style, when, a gunman walked into their church and tried to wreak terrible, terrible havoc on what they could have done and taken lives, that's just ridiculous, okay? You're just ridiculous. So if that's you, if that's what your first thought was, then you need to find you an altar and get in the altar. But here's what I want to talk to you about that could get me in trouble, but it shouldn't get me in trouble, because it is a narrative that is being squashed, and it is something that seems to be, and I put that in quotation, seems to be a rising narrative. You may or may not know this, and I'll be honest with you. When I heard this, and I heard it was a woman, because for so long we never heard of women doing things like this in the media. You can call it, I'm biased, whatever, but for whatever reason, because of what happened in Nashville, I just thought, is there something more to this than we're being told? Well, lo and behold, it's come out already. Joel Osteen, church shooter, identified as someone named as Janice Moreno, but also went by Jeffrey. And this is the picture of the woman from her social media, I don't know, I guess a previous arrest, and looks like a mugshot, and one of her Instagram posts. The individual who walked into Joel Osteen's Lakewood, Texas church on Sunday pulled out a weapon and opened fire. Has been identified as Janice Yvonne Moreno, 36. She was wearing a trench coat, opened fire while entering the church, and this is the strange part, along with a 5-year-old child. Local news reports that multiple sources have said that Janice is suspected as being the armed woman who was killed at the church on Sunday. Reports indicated that the shooter was female, but Moreno may have been male. There's just a there's just a confusion about it. Moreno was shot and killed by 2 off-duty officers. Moreno's weapon was emblazoned with the slogan, "Free Palestine." Now, where have we heard that? We've heard that all over the news. That's the slogan, "Free Palestine." Engraved in the side of the weapon was "Free Palestine." Okay, it's just all kinds of things to unpack here. So law enforcement records have identified Jeffrey. Look at the contrast here. It's just, look at the confusion. Have identified Jeffrey Escalatine in the past and had prior arrests for assault, forgery, marijuana possession, theft, evading, and unlawfully carrying a weapon. Janice Moreno went by Jeffrey Escalene Moreno, among other aliases, and was from El Salvador. And the child that was brought into the church was shot and injured. The child remains in critical condition in a local hospital. A 57-year-old man was also shot in the leg and taken to the hospital. Now, I'm going to read through some things here, and I'm going to just, it's going to be like a minefield here to navigate to not get flagged, unfortunately. But I don't know if you can see this. This was, I'm assuming this is some kind of identification. This may be an arrest history or whatever. I'm going to try to zoom in on this because I want to show you something else interesting. Not only was Janice also known as Jeffrey, but apparently her name is Moreno, and she's from El Salvador, and I don't know if you can see this, but on her identification, she identifies as white, non-Hispanic. So I thought that was interesting that Janice goes by Jeffrey, and she is clearly Hispanic from El Salvador, but on her official identification, she is labeled as white, non-Hispanic from the country of El Salvador. Now, call me crazy, but everyone that I've ever known that was born in El Salvador did not identify as non-Hispanic. It just gets weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. Authorities searched the home of this person in the social media, and this was her social media account. Now, you want to talk about getting strange here. Watch this. This was her name of her social media, Building Wealth Incorporated. She posted pictures of her weapon, AR-15. Okay, and like I said, the algorithm's going crazy with me right now, I'm sure. But now watch this. She also posted about giving money to Joel Osteen's church and indicated that she had attended and was a part of the church. Here's a screenshot of when Janice paid her tithes and offerings. So she was apparently someone who attended this church. Thank you for your recent gift to Lakewood Church. It says your support is helping bring message of hope. You can see it's Lakewood Church, order confirmation. And then she defends her church, says one may say my church is this or that, and I sit back with facepalm, for they like to clown on the people of God. Do they know what they are doing? Persecute, I say, indeed, and proceed. Your reward is waiting. As for me and my household, I will honor and bless my church, Lakewood Church. We continue to see many of the social media posts. She goes on to post that she is a Bernie Sanders supporter and says, I swing in political parties and he wants to finish FDR's New Deal. I want him in office in the United States as president. That was in 2020. And then, of course, it posts pictures of this child. We don't know the relation, if it's her actual child or if she was in custody of the child. And then, of course, Joel Osteen, after the church service, addressed the situation. Now, what I want to show you and what I want to tell you, I want to come back here on full screen and look at you and talk to you for just a minute, is because this could have been much worse. This was in between the regular service and the Hispanic service. And so the crowds were considerably less, and it was in between the services when they were moving between the congregations, and that's when she came in. If she would have came in during the regular service, it would have been horrible. So it just sort of also makes you think that she was accustomed to the Hispanic service, and she was on her way there. And, of course, the armed security, off-duty police officers that were there doing security for Lakewood immediately engaged her, and in the gunfire, I don't know if you realized reading through the what I was saying there, in the gunfire to her that eliminated her life, there was, I guess, I'm sure they were not aiming at the child, but the child was hit. She hit someone that was 57 years old, and then apparently what it's being said, now there's also, some people are saying that maybe she was the one that engaged the child. But the child is in critical condition, so we're absolutely praying for that child and for the 57-year-old man that was shot in the leg. But she has ceased to exist. But I think it's interesting when you think about Nashville, when you think about what happened in Nashville at the church school, but it was at a church, a school that this person that identified the same way, a woman who went also by a man's name, demanded to be called a man, was the one and assaulted a church. And to this day, we still do not have the manifesto of that day. When any other shooter, we would have a manifesto. And I dare say that if there is one here, we will not see this one either, because that doesn't fit the narrative. Like I said, I'm getting in all kinds of trouble online right now. But somebody's got to tell the truth, and I may get kicked off for telling the truth, but you're not going to hear this side of it on CNN, MSNBC, or even Fox News. No one is going to tell you, and these are not conspiracy theories. These are not just people making up these things. These are things that have been said from the police. The police have revealed everything I just said to you. Well, it's interesting that at the same time, I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and there is a tremendous church here. It's probably the largest church in America is actually right here. It's called Church of the Highlands. And on the same day, a 17-year-old was arrested at Church of the Highlands campus on a murder warrant, a 17-year-old who had an active warrant for murder. Okay, what's he doing on the street if he has an active, and by the way, it's capital murder. He has a capital murder warrant out for him, and from Montgomery County, was arrested. According to Pelham Police Department, which is a neighboring Birmingham city, an adult and 8 juveniles arrived at Church of the Highland campus on Helena Road in 2 separate vehicles. A church volunteer was shuttling people from their vehicle to the building and saw one of the boys had a firearm in his waistband. The volunteer told him he could not have that weapon inside the church. The boy exited the shuttle, put the firearm in the vehicle. The adults and other 7 juveniles got out of the shuttle. One of the juvenile females drove a vehicle containing the firearm and returned a few minutes later. Pelham police officers made contact with the 17-year-old who had the firearm, and the PPD stated that an active warrant for murder, and as I said, I've also read this capital murder for Montgomery County, and they took it into custody without incident. They later discovered the firearm in the bushes just outside the church's property. So I know they're not related, okay? I know these are not the same type of things, and they're not related. This is a 17-year-old with a bunch of teenagers versus what we just read that happened in Houston. But look, can I just be real with you? By the way, this is a breaking news program, but this is also a big picture. This is a Kingdom of God channel as well. And we understand the demonic realm. There is a heightened demonic activity like none of us has ever seen, and it's only just beginning. So the question I led off with, should we be concerned as church people of this happening in the future? I say yes. But it's not just Christian churches. I'm seeing that religious institutions, even of other religions, are being attacked as well in America, but mainly there's been an uptick of violence towards the Christian church. And the narrative is flipped that it is the Christian church that is the hateful ones, but that's not true. It's really the tactic of the enemy is to flip the truth into a lie and tell that lie so much that the public believes it. The Christian church is the only church led by their leader, who is Jesus Christ, who tells you to love your enemy and to pray for your enemy. Every other religion tells you to eliminate your enemy. But Christianity, true Christianity, I'm not talking about false Christianity, but true Christianity follows Jesus. And Jesus said, love your enemy and pray for your enemy, okay? So this is what we see coming, all right? I really believe that as we get closer and closer to this spring and summer, and certainly as we get into the fall, we are going to see chaos more and more and more. And chaos in the streets by way of violence and looting and burning buildings down, but also, unfortunately, chaos in physical attacks with hands. You know, you see people just walking down the streets, just knocking people out unexpectedly. There's just a rise of demand. And there's also, part of it is because they feel empowered because there's no consequences for their actions. But we're praying for Lakewood Church. We're praying for Pastor Joel. And like I said, if you're sitting there going, you know, yeah, well, Joel Osteen, he's not even a real church, you need to get saved. Because I'm not talking about it. I'm not sanctioning what he says. I'm not sanctioning how he preaches. I'm not sanctioning his doctrine. This is not me saying, you know, I'm just saying that if you're turning this into a way to attack on somebody's preaching style in a church, man, you're much worse off than he is. No matter if he's preaching Bible, heresy, whatever you're in your mind, you're worse off if you want to take advantage of this. I mean, many people could have lost their lives. Thank God they didn't. But the interesting thing, and the reason I came on here is I wanted to tell you that you're not going to hear that narrative, that not only does she identify as a man, she also had carved into the side of her favorite AR, Free Palestine. So do you think that the media is working up rage and anger? Think about all the boxes that this assailant checks. And think about the narrative that's being told to everyone that's in that group. Everybody hates you. Everybody wants to take you out. Nobody respects you. Blah, 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 blah. Pushing rage. We're beginning to see a pattern, is all I'm saying. If you hadn't smashed that like button, smash it now. And don't forget tonight, if you're watching this live, tonight is the biggest show. And by the way, the last 3 weeks have been the 3 biggest shows, and it keeps getting bigger every week. Last week was the biggest show we've ever had. Tonight, I'm believing it's going to be even bigger than that. Invite people. Let's wake the world up, and let's build the big picture family. Tonight, Monday night, and every Monday night at 7 o'clock, me and my wife will be hosting a 2-hour news program where we break the news from a kingdom perspective. So thank you for joining me for this short breaking news. Go back and watch this again and really get the details and share this with somebody that needs to know the truth of what's really going on. And pray for the churches. We pray for all the pastors and all the leaders. We're not moved by a spirit of fear, with power, love, and a sound mind. But we also got to keep our eyes open. Remember, Jesus said, be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. See you tonight at 7 o'clock. We ain't woke, but we certainly are awake. God bless.